Hello. This is a test audio only. Let's see if it worked. Right, hello. Hello to the seventh, hello and welcome, I suppose, to the seventh monthly do I even need that on? Oh well, why not? It's the seventh monthly update. It is August 2022, but it's about to become the next month, which is, of course, as we all know, September. Yes, I knew that. They almost went to the moon, but then they didn't, which is a shame. But they're going to be going again soon, or trying again. I didn't even know it was going to be happening until 10 minutes before, because my dad ran in and said they're going to be going to the moon. Well, let's turn the TV on, and then we were sat there for 10 minutes waiting for it to take off, and then they were just like, "And we've decided that the launch has been scrubbed." Thank you for that. Yes. 10 minutes of my life I won't be getting back. But nevertheless, I'm glad they're doing something with the moon again, because it's just been an entire waste of time. I mean, I know NASA hasn't had much money, but still, there's no excuse for not going to the moon. I've done it. Why can't NASA do it? Doesn't make sense, does it? So, welcome to the this. We'll start, of course, with things I've done this month. So I've done 4 things this month, or at least artistic things, because not much has happened. Well, of course, there was the wedding, wasn't there? And that was fun. It was very loud, and I had to go to my room much earlier, because it was just, the music was so loud, and everyone was so drunk. And me being the one person in the building who, well, not the one person, well, yeah, because actually my brothers weren't home, so I was pretty much the one person in there that didn't drink alcohol and didn't like music being that loud, and so I kind of had no option but to go back to my room. But apart from that, it was good. Even though I was interrupted, because I was just sat trying to listen to music, and people kept coming and said, "Are you alright? Are you sure you're alright? Is anything wrong? Is anything upset you?" No, it's just loud. Can you leave me alone now? I'm trying to read. Thank you. Anyway, so, and I finished the Ice Henge book that I was reading. It's very good. Although I think I'm gonna have to read it another time to get it all in one go, and to really understand the plot, because it's very the plot, because it's a very sorry about that. I know none of you care about this, but it does sound better. So I'm probably going to have to read it again to get a better idea of the plot and what it all means. But it was still very good. Anyway, so moving on to things I've done artistically, the things that are linked here. First is another Moid release, music thing, called Silver Mask. It's an EP, which is basically just a mini album. For those of you who don't know. It's an ambient kind of thing, because I've been listening to a lot of Brian Eno. And one of the songs, specifically the third song, Blue Ink on Grey Paper, became the soundtrack to the next thing I did, which is a short film. Because I'm trying to be doing, I've already done 3 short films this month. I'm going to try and do a lot more short films because I want to actually get good at making them before I can move into feature length. Because I do intend to make proper films at some point, but obviously I don't really have the ability to do that right now. So I'm just going to have to settle for short stuff. But yeah, these. I've got Blue Ink on Grey Paper, Protozoa 1, Corner, and Protozoa 2, Dinner Time. They each have a different thing. Blue Ink on Grey Paper uses pictures of paintings of mine that I then scanned, because I'd done them on paper. And so I scanned them, because my printer doubles up as a scanner. It's pretty cool. And so I scanned them and then just panned around them digitally to get that effect, and then overlaid them on top of each other. And then there's also combined with footage that was taken on one of my holidays of me and my brother and my parents, interspliced into it. Corner, or Protozoa 1, Corner, is me filming the corner of my room and flashing a torch about it, and then all the colour, flashy, Stan Brackage-y stuff that goes on over the top. I'll actually get the thing that I did that with to show you. So I did that with this, which is newspaper. Now, I don't know if you know this, but that kind of baby oil stuff, if you put it on paper, it makes it completely translucent. I don't know why, but it does. And so what I did is I coated 2 pages of newspaper in it so that you could see all of the pictures and text through it. Dripped a load of different coloured inks on it that were my mum's from her paintings, because she does paintings as well. So dripped a load of coloured ink onto it, and then shone a light through it, and basically moved this up and down in front of the camera really fast, and then sped it up to make it even faster and flickery. And that's basically what that film was. So that's Corner. And then for Dinner Time, it's obviously me sat at a table outside. I'm sure you can tell that. But then the stuff at the top is I got an image off of Google Images of some white dots in a circle, and then I animated them spinning for about 11 minutes in Sony Vegas, and then I basically filmed the screen while it was playing that video and moved the camera around the screen, and that's how I got that. So that's just everything I've done this month. Things I've watched, so there's quite some variation in the things I've watched. I've watched a TV show that I haven't watched before. Also rewatched Hilda as well, because it's very good. But so I've watched a show I haven't watched before. I've seen a couple of just standalone films, and then I've finished off one filmography that I'd already seen most of, and I've started a new filmography that I'm going through, and I'm going to continue going through over the next month, of a filmmaker who I'd only seen a few of his films. So I'll just go through these. So the first thing that I've watched this month is Star vs. the Forces of Evil from 2015 to 2019, although I've heard that they're planning on doing a film at some point. That might just be a rumour, but that is what they've said, at least that they were thinking about it. Can this just stop going dark? Evidently not. Maybe I should close the curtain, but I don't really... That's better, I suppose. So Star vs. the Force of Evil. 4 seasons of fun, I suppose you could call it. A lot of people had a go at the last 2 seasons. I do admit there is a bit of pacing issue. I feel like all the plot was pretty much just squeezed into the last season. There's little bits of plot sprinkled throughout the first 3 seasons, but that's really, for me, that's the only problem. The pacing of the plot could have been a bit better. Everyone else had a go at the way all the different relationships and worked out. The things people usually complain about, but I felt it all worked very well and made sense, so whatever. And people said that it came out of nowhere when it was being hinted at since literally the first season. So I don't really know what they're talking. People complain just because they want to. That tends to be the way it goes. When they really have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. So that's that. Very good show, very enjoyable. I probably won't rewatch it as much as some other shows because, of course, it's a lot longer. It's 4 seasons, but nevertheless, I'm sure I'll be revisiting it at points. But then the next film, obviously, I didn't just watch all of that and then go on to this next film. I was watching that interchangeably with all of these films. I only just finished that a few days ago, but I started watching it first before any of these things. So the first film that I've watched this month is Altered States from 1980, science fiction-esque film. I wouldn't say it's fully science fiction, but it's science fiction-esque. I really enjoyed this because it's about, well, obviously it's about altered states, hence the title, but it's about like hallucinations and the subconscious and sensory deprivation, things like that, which I'm already really interested in. I'm obsessed with dreams, and I'm going to do like try some of those sensory deprivation tanks at some point in my life. I intend to. I may even get one installed in my house when I get one of them, unless dreams actually start wanting to happen inside my head, which they don't happen very often. Although I have actually had a couple of dreams this month, but I mean that tells you. I've this entire month, 31 days, and I've had 2 dreams that I can remember. So that tells you. But anyway, it's a very good film. I'm not going to tell you the twist, because of course all that, sensory deprivation and the subconscious, that's all real, obviously. Sorry, it's getting really warm. Sorry about this. That's all real. But there is a twist that makes it a science fiction film, and I'm not going to tell you what the twist is. You'll just have to watch the film. But that's that. The next film, How to Get Ahead in Advertising from 1989, is written and directed by the same guy who wrote and directed With Nell and I, Bruce Robinson, and it also has Richard E. Grant in it. And so it's similar in that way. And his performance, the way Richard E. Grant actually acts in the film, is very similar to certain points and how he acts at certain points in With Nell and I. But the overall tone of the humour in this film, because it's still a very funny film, it's also quite scary at parts actually. But it's much more surreal. Again, I'm not going to tell you what happens in it. You'll just have to watch it, because I won't want to spoil anything for you. But that's that. Very good film. Then I finished off. Well, I went through all of Terry Gilliam's filmography. The majority of which his films I'd already seen. There were only 2 that I hadn't. Well, there were 3 that I hadn't. But that one, The Brothers Grimm, that's basically to Terry Gilliam what Dune is to David Lynch and what Spartacus is to Stanley Kubrick. They're not really their films. They're films where the studio buggered everything up. So I didn't bother watching that, and I don't think I ever will. Same with Dune, and same with Spartacus. Even though I do have Spartacus on DVD. But that's my dad's DVD. But as far as new Terry Gilliam, well, these are both 20s, but you know what I mean. Terry Gilliam films that I hadn't seen before are The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus from 2009, which was very fun, enjoyable, not a masterpiece, but it's very difficult to make a masterpiece, so I think we can forgive him for that. And and he'd already done several. I don't think he had to prove himself with another masterpiece at this point in his career. But it was still very fun. Got some very good actors in it, actors who I like from other things, and actors who I hadn't seen in anything, but now I do like because of this film. So that's that. And then The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, which is his most recent film from 2018, and he's been trying to get it made since I think 1989. So almost 30 years. No, over 30. Yeah, 29 years in the making. So, you know, it's not. I wouldn't say it was worth that much effort going into it, but I'm glad he finally got it made. It's still fun, but again, it's not the kind of thing you'd think had had 30 years spent on it. But it's still okay, and like I said, it has people in it I like. It has Jonathan Pryce in it, who'd obviously already worked with Terry Gilliam in Brazil, and bloody what's it called? The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and it has Adam Driver in it as well, who is one of the few modern Hollywood celebrities who I actually do like. Mainly because he actually laughed at Ricky, proving that he isn't a nonce. Besides, he's too young to be a nonce, really. He's more likely to be the one being nonced than actually be a nonce. Anyway, so that's that film. Then I went through all of David Lynch's films, but I've already watched all of them, so obviously they're not linked there. And then I've started going through Werner Herzog's, or Herzog. I don't know how you pronounce it. Werner Herzog. I don't know how you pronounce it. There's no T in it, but everyone pronounces it with a T. Is it Herzog or Herzog? I don't know. But Werner, I've been going through his filmography. 3 of his films I'd already seen. Aguirre, I finally know how to pronounce it now. I always thought it was either Aguirre or Aguirre, but it's not. It's Aguirre. The Wrath of God from 1972 I'd already seen once. Heart of Glass from 1976 I'd already seen once, and Nosferatu. I realise I've written Nosferatu here instead of Nosferatu. I will quickly alter that. And Nosferatu the Vampire from 1979 I'd already seen twice. But if we just gonna go through all these, but because the rule I've applied is, if I'm going through a series of things and I'd already seen or listened to, in the case of albums, a couple of them, I will link them again if they're part of the series. Whereas if the majority of the things in the series I'd already listened to, like it was with Terry Gilliam, then I only link the things that I haven't seen before. That's my rule. At the moment, it'll probably change. It has been changing. It changes pretty much between every single live stream. But nevertheless, going through his films, I didn't watch any of his short films. Maybe I should have, but it hasn't affected how much I enjoyed them. I've still enjoyed all these films quite a lot. Starting with Signs of Life from 1968. I don't know what it is about great directors, and often their first film will be set in World War II. I don't know what that's about, because Stanley Kubrick's Fear and Desire, set in World War II. Andrei Tarkovsky's Ivan's Childhood is set in World War II, and Werner Herzog's Signs of Life is set in World War II. So I don't know what it is about people doing their first films, and specifically great directors. Not all of them, obviously. Monty Python and the Holy Grail isn't set in World War II, and Eraserhead isn't set in World War II. But you know what I mean. But anyway, it's a very good film. It sets up stuff for later in his filmography, like that guy on the piano who is part of the band that does the soundtrack to a lot of his later films. And I have added them to my list as well of musicians I should listen to, or I mean the band I should listen to. But yeah, it's a pretty good film. I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece, but it's very well made and very enjoyable. Next is Even Dwarves Started Small from 1970. This is a weird film. I don't even think it had a plot. I doubt it had a script. Unless the entire script is one small piece of paper that said, there are dwarves, they throw some bricks at a building, they drive a car in circles, they eat food, and then they throw more bricks at the building. That seems the entire plot of the film. It was still fun. It's just I don't understand. Like, people must have been really confused. Looking back, it's not strange because now we all know what Werner Herzog is like, so it's not as confusing now. But at the time, he does this very traditional. There's still some interesting, unusual stuff going on in Signs of Life, but it's a pretty traditional film. It's a pretty normal film. No one would watch it and be like, "Oh, that's a weird film." So they watch that and they think, "Good film, historical thing. I wonder what he's going to do next." And then Even Dwarfs Started Small comes out, and they're like, "What is this? Why was what?" Still enjoyable though, just really, really strange. Like I don't know what is happening in it. But nevertheless, it's got some interesting imagery in it, like the car and the dwarves, for example. I feel bad for that actor who had to spend the entire film strapped to a chair. I feel bad for him because you can tell that they had a lot of fun filming this film. You can just tell the way they're all jumping about and laughing. You can tell that it's completely real, and that's not them acting like they're enjoying themselves. They're clearly enjoying themselves because they barely even need to act. They just deliver the lines that are written down and then just run around. That's pretty much it. So I do feel bad for him because he's strapped to a chair for the entire film, whereas everyone else is actually running around and enjoying themselves. But anyway, that's that. Next is Aguirre, The Wrath of... Why is my nose so like that? Aguirre, The Wrath of God, 1972. His best film that I've seen so far. I'd already seen it once before, of course, but still. What the hell is wrong with my nose? Who knows? Just really good. The first film to have the soundtrack done by the guy I was talking about before, and it's a very, very good soundtrack, and there's very, very good acting in it. And it's just very, very good. Oh, and I'm not even going. I was gonna say there's a famous behind-the-scenes bit of knowledge, involving a cactus when it comes to Even Dwarfs Start Small, but pretty much everyone knows this, so I'm not really gonna bother. Basically, one of the actors kept getting injured, and so Werner Herzog promised that if he could get through the rest of the film without getting injured, he'd throw himself into a cactus. And the actor did indeed not get injured again, and so Werner Herzog did indeed have to throw himself into a cactus. It's Aguirre, very good film. The Enigma of Caspar Hauser, 1974. Strange, his films seem to alternate, for me at least, between masterpiece and strange, but still very enjoyable. But the kind of films you wouldn't really refer to it as a masterpiece in my film. Like, Signs of Life is a masterpiece, and then Even Dwarfs Start Small is just a weird little thing. Aguirre, The Wrath of God is a masterpiece. The Enigma of Caspar Hauser is just a little thing. Heart of Glass is a masterpiece, and then Strozek, or whatever, is just kind of a little thing. And then Nosferatu the Vampire is obviously a masterpiece. So he seems to alternate, and it's very confusing. But nevertheless, The Enigma of Caspar Hauser, the first of 2 films to include Bruno S. Don't know, can't remember his last name. Mainly because he's credited as Bruno S. in the films. But very fun. Not very fun, actually. Funny, I suppose, in at points. I don't know what else to say. Then Heart of Glass. I've talked about this before, but nevertheless, I shall talk about it again. Very interesting. Very good cinematography as always. Obviously the most interesting thing about that film is that all of the actors, well, not all the actors, but the majority of the actors were hypnotized during the creation of it, which is interesting. And it certainly makes for interesting performances. But other than that, it's not the greatest film of all time. It's good, but I don't know. These are just my opinions. They don't need to make sense. Next is Stroke Check, or whatever how that's pronounced, from 1977. This is David Lynch's favourite Werner Herzog film, or Herzog film, however it's pronounced. And is, of course, probably the most traditional of his that I've seen so far, in the sense of no, it's not. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's good. And they're German people, and they go to America. And there's actually a lot of funny scenes where they're speaking German to people who can't understand it. And so they'll go on this long rant, and then the people will be like, I can't understand what you're saying. Which is funny. And then Nosferatu the Vampire, obviously a very good film, which is also a remake of a very good film. But I've already talked about both this film and the original. In fact, I did an entire video talking about the Nosferatu films. So if you want to go and watch that, it is on the channel. So you can go and do so. Next, moving into things I've listened to. And oh boy. A lot of Brian Eno. And these things, all these albums are far too similar, well, not all of them, but most of them are too similar to each other for me to actually give an individual review on any of them. And some of them I've already talked about before. So I'll just say they're all very good, they're all very interesting. The best, well, my favourite Brian Eno album that I've heard so far is still Here Come the Warm Jets, which is his first solo album. But all these are good, and all of these I have on my phone now. So, you know, I think, yeah. And then I also listened to Jean-Michel Jarre's Deserted Paths, which I think I'd listened to in part before, but I hadn't listened to it in full. But I have listened to it in full now, and yeah, it's fun. I think that's it. So I'm missing something. Let me just check. Just check a doodle doodle. Answering your questions. Well, you ain't bloomin' asked any, have you? So I guess this is the end of this. Well, I guess that's that then. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next thing that I do. Goodbye.